that marathon training really saved my life. It was that dark for me. There were days where I questioned whether I wanted to go on. If you're going through a hard time like that, don't give in to the darkness. Instead, say, let me put something on my calendar. Maybe it's not even a run, but something that you got to stay alive for.
Hey there, and welcome to Through Their Stride, a podcast where I tell the stories of the Texas Hill Country runners and run the routes that they know best. This podcast is more than about pace and mileage. It's about telling the stories about the runners you pass on the sidewalk on your daily commute. The ones who show up rain or shine, or in hot days like this. Each episode, I'll join a local runner on one of their favorite routes and hear the story of the why behind their run. This is Through Their Stride. I'm Sam Sutton. Let's get into it.
This will be the third time we've done this in.
Yeah, so welcome to episode 2 of Through Their Stride. Take 2 of this turn and take 3 just in general. Yeah. So my name is Sam Sutton. I'm joined by Brent Burgess. He is a local runner and musician here in town. And he and I did our first marathon together at the Austin Marathon in February of 2023. I told this story of us together back in late 2023 or early 2024, and the audio on that was terrible, and it was just not a good. I didn't do the story justice, so I want to do it again. And then we did it again yesterday for episode 2, and my audio was off the entire time. This is take 3, pretty much.
Yeah.
So thank you for having the patience to come back on.
It's fun to do it every time.
Yeah. And so I guess my first question is, first I'll preface with, I hired you for the newspaper back in late 2022, early 2023, I believe. No, it was early 2022 is what it was, because that's when we started training.
Okay.
And you had no newspaper experience.
None.
Yeah. I guess from your point of view, talk a little bit about how you came to the paper and what that experience was like.
Yeah, well, I had no writing experience on any kind of professional level, but I did have it as a passion for writing, and I had done writing in other ways. But a friend of mine, Jack Pounds, had referred me. He said, I hear the paper's hiring a reporter. And I came in, and I like to tell the story actually because it's kind of comical. But I remember that our mutual boss, the publisher of the paper, said, so Brent, I've been looking over your resume. Do you have any journalism experience whatsoever? And I said, no, I don't. And I thought that was going to be it. Like the interview was going to be over right then and there. But then y'all found out that I had been a photographer before. I had published blogs before, and I'd interviewed people for an art tour business that I'd been operating and writing a blog for. And then had done enough stuff as a musician where I was kind of comfortable talking to people, and I basically had a lot of qualifiers. So y'all gave me a shot, and that was a really cool thing that opened the door for this marathon deal and everything, but also opened up the door for me to be in media, which I'm still in today now as a radio guy. So
yes, so you host a radio show every weekday. Is it every weekday?
Every weekday to talk about our little small town, and I've actually interviewed the running club guys. I've had Caleb in there before, and your previous guest, and then I also am brand new writing and editing for a magazine that's just launching here as well. So none of those doors would have opened for me, I don't think, without that news. And honestly, it's a job I loved. I did it for 2 years there, and you were a great mentor to me in something that it was. I mean, the funny thing, the first day I worked, that I came in, you were gone. You were on a vacation. You were my comfort blanket, man. So it's like I came in there and I'm sitting at my desk and I didn't know anything. And so this mutual boss came up to me and he said, "Hey, there's a story on this local barber shop. You want to cover that?" And I was like, "Sure." And he walked away, and I was like, "I don't know." So yeah, but we figured it out, man. Figured it out.
And the story ended up being really good. So,
I learned a lot real quick. So yeah.
But we ended up becoming really good friends. And you had mentioned to me that you were wanting to get a run on the calendar.
Yeah.
And you wanted to get something. You were going through a pretty rough divorce, and you wanted to get something to kind of take your mind off of it. So can you talk a little bit about when I asked you and what that was like?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think it's really important to my story about the marathon was not breaking some kind of record or doing something that nobody'd ever done physically before. But for me, it was all about the timing of how this came with in at that time of my life. Because and it was the newspaper job was the same thing because I was in a place where I was in the process of divorce. I'd been separated for a little while. And it's like every week something was getting stripped away from my life. It was like I'm losing the house now. I'm losing my stuff. I'm putting all of my belongings in a storage shed. Like the transition was bleak, and aside from the emotions that I still loved this person that was leading me. And so there was just a lot difficult. And so the job at the paper was a light that kept me moving a little bit forward. But then it was like, finding out you were a runner and that I had done some running in my past, which had a real emotional impact on me as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd kind of fallen off the wagon. And so when I talked about it with you, you were like, let's do a run. And I was like, I know I need to have a run on the calendar or else I'm not going to train.
Mm-hmm.
And so you came back at me then saying, I think I have a run for us to do. And you pitched the idea of the Houston Marathon.
Yeah.
And I was really taken back because I thought we'd do a little 5K together or something like that, And I was like, marathon? What are you talking about, marathon, dude? And but like I said when we tried this yesterday, it was one of those things where I knew in my heart that I needed to say yes to it. But I did. I learned enough in my older age wisdom to not say yes fast. So I was like, give me some time to think about it. And I thought on it like a week. And as I've said before, like I didn't want to do it, but I knew I needed to do it.
Yeah.
So everything in my soul said, you got to say yes to this. Yeah. You'll just have nothing but regret if you don't.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. And you'll get into this here in a second, but what that basically was signing on the dotted line of saying, I will spend hours and hours distracting myself from things I feel emotionally. And that's kind of what I needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that training block, it ended up being a very long training block, and I'll get to that in a second. But, I feel like when both of us became really good friends in that training block because we just had hours of running together, and like we got to get on our long runs and just talk about our lives. And I thought that was probably one of the greatest moments that I've had in my running journey. Just, I couldn't have asked just to do a marathon, with anyone else and with any other experience because I just made such a good friend. So, but talk about a little bit, I guess, obviously the physical growth, but the mental and spiritual growth that you had training for that race.
Yeah, absolutely. And I could double down on the friend thing because it's like, if anybody's ever thought about doing a marathon before, you picture in your mind what it would be like to finish 26 plus miles. Mm-hmm. And you can picture the race day. You picture the race day. What you don't picture, unless you've done it before or talked to somebody who's done it before, is so many hours before race day. Because you're doing, 4 runs a week was kind of what we were doing.
Yeah.
Some shorter, some longer, but then you get these long runs that are taking half of your day. So from a friendship standpoint, it's like you're not out there running a 2-mile run like we did yesterday where you're, 30 minutes and you're done. We're sometimes out there 4 hours together, and so there's a lot of talking in that time. You're having to entertain yourself. And to my knowledge, I don't think either of us ever put anything in our ears. I think we always ran together, just communicating, talking. And there was a lot of fun moments in there. I remember you getting scared you thought something was behind us.
Oh,
it was dark morning.
Yes, I do remember that. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, you like jumped into my lane.
Yeah.
And scared the crap out of me. And then,
that was on like Crabapple, wasn't it?
That was on Crabapple, like in one of those little creek crossings. It was dark. And then you exposed me to a lot of music. You played music for me that I'd never heard before. And that was cool. But, for me, the spiritual side of it was, aside from running with Sam, which is a big part of our friendship thing. And that was healing for me too, just to have somebody in my life. Cause I did talk a lot to you, man. You probably got tired of me talking about my relationship life.
No, I definitely didn't get tired of it.
But it was therapy, man. And then the runs I did without you, the shorter training runs during the week, it's just a lot of very powerful moments for me where, I needed that 30 minutes or that hour to kind of digest things, reflect. I would often listen to audiobooks or music that was inspiring to me, that would put me in a place. It was all just very healing to me. And as I'll mention again, like that's 4 times out of the week where you're going home with a win.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was a big thing, was at a time that was hard emotionally, even whether it was a little 3-mile, easy run to start the week, or whether it was the 17 milers that we did on those big loops. You're going to bed at night and being like, I did that. And it was so good for me where I needed to be, because I was losing a lot and I needed some things that I was like, I won today.
Yeah. So, yeah. And I think, you won more than me sometimes. There were some days where you were doing better than me. And it was kind of funny. I think at the beginning, we were kind of in uncharted waters where like, it did seem like I was a little better just because I've been running more. But then we got to the higher mileage days, and there would be a lot of long runs where you'd kick my butt on them. So that was pretty amazing. I
had a knack for the grit of just going, and getting it over with. But that being said, and I was thinking about this past week as I was running. I've consistently struggled the first mile of any run, whether it's a light run or whether it's a long run. Something about the way my body or my mind is wired, where the first mile of it, I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Like, why am I doing this? It's really hard to get past that. And we'd have those little 2.5 milers like at the beginning of the week. And even then, like, I would just be like, this sucks. Why am I doing this? I always have to get over that first mile to get into it. So, yeah.
So next thing I'll go into is like you said, we were going to do the Houston Marathon, but it was all booked up by the time we were going to book it, because we, for some reason, decided not to book it until like late December. And the race was in January. Yeah. So we learned a hard lesson there. And then we were kind of on the mix of like, should we do Austin Marathon, which is like mid-February, or should we do the Cowtown in Fort Worth, which is late February? Yeah. And you were kind of like, I don't really want to keep running at all, but like, we got to stay in shape because we committed.
Yeah.
And what was the thought of choosing the Austin Marathon? How did that kind of come about for you?
Lesser of evils, I guess. I was very jaded when we missed the Houston. It was nobody's fault. We were both like just naive about that, I suppose. Mm-hmm. But it was like going from the emotional, in 2 weeks, we're going to have this thing done, to,
because we hit our tape.
Now we got to run for another 6 weeks, and sorry, I just touched my mic.
You're good.
At that point, we've been training for, I guess, the better part of half a year, a lot of hours out there on the road. And I was so burned up on running that it was hard to swallow. Like, I've got to do 6 more weeks. Either sit around and trust I'm going to be okay, which was not an option. It's like I'll end up injured or something, And then you even throw in the fact that, like, every week that you're training, you're gambling with whether you're going to get sick or something that's going to put a whole, and both of us got sick at various times.
We did
that training.
Yeah.
And when you do a long training like that, it's almost inevitable you're going to have some kind of thing.
There's going to be setbacks.
Yeah. So, but that was a hard pill to swallow. And we talked about the Cowtown, which I liked the idea of that, because it had been a race I'd been interested in before. But Austin was close. I want to say it was closer on the calendar too. I don't really remember for sure, but I just wanted to get it done. I wanted to get it over with. And Austin, I like Austin. Austin sounded cool.
Oh, and then PEC, remember my work got also paid for Austin.
That's right.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was the reasons for that. And otherwise, I didn't really care that much. I did know that Austin was going to be harder than Houston. I knew that. I've been to both cities. I know what their landscape looks like. So I was like, this is going to be harder. But I also thought, well, maybe it won't be as hot. And that was true too, because you remember it was really cold the morning we started when we walked in the start line. So
yeah. So yeah, it was nice. It was nice until we started the run, and I feel like we both got pretty beat up there. This is both of our first marathon, and we didn't know anything about gels. We knew very little about hydration. We just did course hydration. So we were hurting pretty bad by like mile 10, I would say.
Yeah, we were almost the halfway point. Feeling really good, the first part, but I think in general, I didn't know much. And I'd done races before. I'd done several 5Ks, and I had done one 10K, and then a relay half marathon where I ran an 8-mile leg. So 8 miles was the maximum I'd ever put on a race road. So, but even in our training, like, we never planted water stops. We didn't really do. I did end up eventually having this kind of like waist belt that I would wear that had water bottles when it got really long. But I remember I would always laugh because you'd be running in your gym shorts with your keys in your pocket.
Basketball shorts.
Chang, your key. I was like, doesn't that drive you crazy, man? You're like, no, it's nothing. And so we were just out there putting on the miles. We didn't have any real, technical approach to it. And I think that consequence didn't really hit us until the race.
Yeah.
Where I know for me personally, I didn't hydrate well, and was just kind of naive, like, well, just run and we'll knock it out. And it got real rough, man. Real rough.
You were saying this yesterday, but talk a little bit about the Austin Marathon for you as a personal thing, because I don't think either of us really thought about what it would mean. And you had lived in Austin with your wife for a few years, and you said it was kind of like running through memory lane. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And the good news about re-recording this, I probably won't get emotional this time. But so I never lived in Austin with my ex-wife, but we had done a lot of vacations there, a lot of trips there, and spent a lot of time there. And so what this was all shocker for me. And in other words, I wasn't emotionally prepared for. So, if anybody out there listening has gone through a divorce or a really difficult breakup or the loss of a loved one, you get blindsided with things that you don't expect. Like I would go out Christmas shopping and I would just be in Target and remember shopping for Christmas with her. And then all of a sudden it's like my emotional whole state would shift, And there was one time I was shopping in San Antonio where I had to put down the stuff that I had in my hands to buy. I had to put them down fast, walk out of the store and go sit in my car and just cry. I would lose it,
Yeah.
So you get these moments like that because you just don't know what's going to trigger, a thought or a memory. So the actual race day was like that. And I'd never really considered what it would be like to be running down South Congress with the hotel that we had last stayed in only 6 months earlier, right there. And we're passing. I'm like, wow, there's that hotel.
Yeah.
And here's where we walked to get breakfast that morning.
Yeah.
And here's where we shopped that day. And then we'd done this little staycation. And that was the most, that was in the first 30 minutes to an hour.
Like we were going over that first bridge over Ladybird Lake, and you were like, welling up.
It was like a deal, and we had kayaked down there on the lake. And then even as we got further down the course, there were we passed places that her and I had eaten at or neighborhoods we had shopped. And so it was literally like running through the memories of my marriage. The metaphor didn't miss me because this is what comes with being a writer, right? Like your brain thinks this way. But metaphorically, I was like, God has given me an opportunity to literally run through my memories of my marriage. And while there was a sadness to it, there was also a sense of I'm going to cross a finish line and leave this behind me.
Yeah.
And that was a really powerful kind of thing that came on me at race day a bit unexpected. You know, we were like staying in East Austin. I didn't really have any memories with that. We stayed in this little downtown place that I didn't really have any memories. But race day, man, it was all things got pretty raw for me on that race course. You know, so on that course, yeah.
Yeah. And you said crossing that finish line though was like one of the most like emotional moments.
It was wild, dude. It was wild. I there was a flood of emotion that hit me that I didn't expect. I expected it to feel good crossing. But you know, I had made a decision to early on. I'd interviewed another local athlete who said, "You got to find your why if you're going to do something this extreme." You know, if you're going to run a 5K, cool, whatever, go run a 5K.
Yeah.
If you're going to do something that's going to involve 6 months of your life,
20 miles, like 3 20-milers.
Yeah, in all these hours, you kind of got to have a why. And I'm sure multiple interviews that you do on this will bring that up with people, because there's just too many times you're going to want to wake up on a Saturday morning being like, I don't want to do this crap. What am I doing? My why was my daughter. I felt like she was the undecided consequence of the divorce. Like she didn't have any say in that. You know, her parents were splitting. She didn't have any say in it. It's just what was going to happen to her. She was young. It was fine. But I had all that emotion in me about that. So I was like, I'm going to run this race for my daughter. That's going to be my why, is to show her that her dad will always fight for her. And that was the thought that I put in my mind. And so my fight was to finish. Well, yeah, man, I got to that last little bit, which first of all, on a comical note, I took off running. I asked you if I could run because we were together. And for the first time we separated, I was like, you mind if I finish this out strong?
I was sick.
You were really sick. You were really, yeah. And so I bolted to finish like the last mile, and nobody told me that there was like the worst hill of the course, like at the
right at the end.
So all the wind got sucked out of my sails. I was like, oh, I'm going to die. But once I got over that and I ran to the finish, it hit me what I had accomplished. And it was like 6 months of emotion and pain, sorrow, but also joys, victories, blessings that all just hit me. And I just bawled, man. I bawled. I went and sat on a bench right there next to the finish line. And it was just, I lost it. I was crying harder than I probably have cried in years. And it felt like people are like, what's wrong with that guy?
Yeah.
You know? But I guess it happens and things like, there's a lot of emotion, things like this. But man, it was quite a deal to have accomplished that.
Yeah.
You know?
And then one of the funny thing was right after the race, I was like, I'm tired. I'm done. I need like a couple months off before I take on anything else.
Yeah.
But you just jumped right back into a training block pretty much right for the Outlaw. And I thought that was really like impressive. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, you know, the marathon training had turned us both into superheroes.
Yes.
And so I wanted to take advantage of that while I had it. You know, I felt like I was in the best shape of my life. And I really was. I mean, on a shallow standpoint, like I look at my legs and be like, man, my legs have changed. Like there's things popping out of my legs.
You would say that sometimes. A couple of times you're like, man, like I got like horse calves.
Yeah, it's great. And y'all can see I don't have like big legs, but they were noticeably, you know, you physically change when you're running that many miles out on the road. So, but yeah, after I finished, we were both spent, and we both said like, I don't think we're ever going to do marathons again. And so plus we both struggled. It was not like a pretty marathon.
No, it was like 6 hours and change.
Yeah, it was tough. Like there was a point where we're like, we may not finish the qualifying time.
Yeah.
And so, but we did, thank God. But yeah, the Outlaw Marathon was not very far away, 4 to 6 weeks. I trained enough to not lose what I had, but I also did take, you know, I wasn't stressing about it. But I knew I didn't need to, because here's the thing: when you run a marathon, 13.1 miles was like an easy training run.
You think about that, you're like, that's fine.
Yeah. I mean, we'd been doing 17, 18. I think we capped out somewhere around 19 or something.
We did 20.
Did we do 20?
Yeah, we did a few 20s.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but by that time, you're talking about almost half that distance when you're doing a 20, several weeks in a row, for your long run, a 13.1 sounded like, sounds like fun. Let's go do it. And I love the idea of the outlaw was fun. I love Lukenbach.
Yes.
I have a connection with Lukenbach.
Shirt.
I've got a Lukenbach shirt right there. And they're not even paying me for that. But I played music out at Lukenbach, and they had their outlaw swag was always, their t-shirts always had like a skull and a guitar on it, and I thought they were so cool. So I was like, I just want to run the outlaw marathon, so I can get the shirt.
Yep.
And so it was really, that race was honestly pretty easy. There were moments. It's a very hilly course, but it felt like any standard, semi-easy training run at that point.
Yeah.
And I crossed the finish line with energy left. I still had energy in my tank. And I'm pretty sure that later that day I went and played a gig. So I was like, I crossed the finish line, grabbed a sausage. They had all these sausages on the, on the grill, grabbed a sausage and a Gatorade. And I was like, life is good.
Yeah. Feeling great.
Yeah, it felt great. I was like, I do this all day. And then I really wound down, and you kind of ended up continuing to truck along, but
yeah. I've been, that's was my first ever marathon. And the last 3 that I've done have all been much more smarter plans.
Yeah. Learn from the mistakes, man.
Yeah.
Mistakes, yeah. Which, I'm, even despite what I said, I am open to more marathons now. I mean, I would love to redeem the experience for one. It comes down to time, because that training time is so,
it's like a part-time job.
Long. It very much is. But finally, mentally, I think I'm enough in a place. Like, I'll do the half marathon this spring. And I may be open to saying, like, you know what, do it while I can. Like, let's get another one on the books. I don't know. Who knows?
It'd be cool.
Yeah.
We could probably do it not together, but together. Maybe we could do something. Fall
just being in participating together, or whatever like that. And, if it keeps me going, I'm 49 years old. So really, at this point, I feel like a lot of my motivation is not to break any kind of records.
Yeah.
It's what I'm doing today. How is that going to pay off for me when I'm 70, when I'm 80? I just
tomorrow.
I don't want to let my body's movement get away from me. You know what I mean?
We should tentatively plan on maybe doing marathon to marathon next year.
If I was going to do one, that one sounds like it's pretty all right. We just have to remember to register on time.
Yes. Well, that one doesn't.
Oh, you can just go. Okay.
We would just need to get our lodging on time, because lodging does.
That does. Yeah.
But so that'd be fun. But anyways, so tell us a little bit. Well, actually, tell us a little bit about your music. And he plays a lot of kind of country, kind of like folk music.
Yeah.
And you play a lot around here. And he's actually known as Brent Ryan around town. So I'll put your music in the show notes, and people can kind of look you up. But talk a little bit about running and music, and how kind of running feeds the creativity of your music, and a little bit about that.
Yeah. One of the coolest things that happens to me is that I get the best song ideas while I'm running. And I don't know what the psychology or the chemistry is, the biochemistry is on that, but I'm sure it's there. Cause I've talked to enough people to know I'm not alone on that. So it's something about whatever the hormones are that are releasing, the positive hormones, the creativity. I will often now one of the challenges is whether I'll still remember the song idea by the time I finish the run.
Yeah.
But as I'm running, I'm like, oh man. And so even just earlier this week, I did a run, a pretty simple little, it was during that interval run. It was really hard. During one of my rest intervals, a song idea popped into my head that I was like, that is a beautiful idea. Like, I've got to write that. It was kind of inspired by my daughter. And then literally 30 seconds later, a completely different topic song dropped on me. It was like, that's a wonderful idea. So I got like 2 within like a minute. And I remembered both and went and wrote them both down so I could tackle them.
Yeah.
But there's a creativity that is unleashed, in that time out there with the dopamine, like you said, or whatever.
Yeah.
But then also, one of my favorite things about running when I ran without you, which was most of the shorter ones we didn't run together.
No,
occasionally.
Yeah, it's really just our long runs.
It was all about those Saturday morning long runs. But the little 3.5ers and 4.1s and 2.5s, most of those we just did separate. Well, a lot of those, what I would put in my ears was either an audiobook, a podcast, or I had a playlist that I made that was the kind of the songs that like speak to my soul.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd helped me get over some other humps in my life. And I would have moments where I would just run and listen to music and just, people must have thought I was a wackadoo because you're running down like Adams Street and I'm like have my hands in the air.
Yeah,
like
I totally get it.
To myself and all this stuff,
I'll have like euphoric moments on my runs where like I'll be doing like a long run and I'll like one time I was going down, I think it was Ranch Road 965 and that's like super hilly, but I was feeling so good. I had good music and like I was like going like like going down like that, and I was like, I don't even care if people like think I'm crazy. I feel so good right now.
Like you're on top of the world. I did one where it was back. Is that Morning Glory? That's kind of back behind where your old apartments used to be.
Yes,
I had just turned on to Morning Glory, and this girl drove by in her car, and I was singing to myself when she drove by, and I sang like I did my hands out to her, like like I'm gonna sing to you right now, and she just turned away from me. Yeah. But I was like, I was just pumped. I was like, my morning's great.
Yeah, we get so crazy on our runs.
Yeah. But the music side, listening was also a powerful thing for me. I just had a lot of connection with the music, which kind of sometimes you need something in your ears. Crazy people used to run so long without having stuff in their ears.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, but I usually put stuff in my ears that was very positive.
Yeah.
And just kind of, get myself pumped about what I'm trying to accomplish, Yeah. And a lot of prayer. I spend a lot of time praying too when I run.
Yeah, that does happen for me too.
Yeah. And it's usually not like, God help me, I'm miserable right now. It's usually like gratitude stuff. Like I'll just thank God that I get to do this.
Yeah.
That my legs work, that my body works, that it's a beautiful morning. Sometimes you see things with the sunrise or, things like that are just moving.
Yeah. So, I'll ask my next question in a minute. But the next time if you do a marathon block again and you need to do a 20-miler, run from Harper to Kerrville.
Oh.
There's a little back road highway that goes straight from Harper to Kerrville.
Yeah.
And it's probably one of the most spiritual runs I've ever done.
Yeah.
Especially like in the fall or spring when like everything is blooming and all the animals are out. You'll see like turkeys and like cattle and big bucks, big antlered bucks. And I mean, it's magical. It's like God's country out there.
Well, I'll have to remember that, man. Yeah, because I was looking for. By the time you get to 20 miles, it gets a little weird. You have to get kind of creative to find your routes.
Because you get so bored running the same old roads.
You get bored, and it gets hard to try to not get on the highways that are like kind of dangerous.
Yes,
which we did. We did some runs on some sketchy.
Well, talking about the run that we did together, that was showing us B-roll. Like we did that one time where we had to run on 87 because it turns into 87 to get back. Yeah. And we lost our shoulder and we were like running into 75 mile an hour traffic.
Yeah. We were on 290 a couple of times.
We were.
I was on the Kerrville Highway once. You weren't on that particular one, but yes, some of these highways you got to be real careful about.
Trail of deer out there.
But I was remembering. So even yesterday when we did the first recording on this, we were reflecting on some of the fun runs. Remember also we were out there in the country when you stayed at our mutual friend's alpaca.
Oh,
house.
Yes.
But that was a pretty run. And we passed a bunch of cyclists out there and they waved and said hi and stuff. But that was a really pretty run.
It was. And you helped me catch a bunny that day because I lost 25 bunnies.
Yeah. You were out sitting all their little farm animals. That was cool.
Yeah,
it was cool.
That was fun. Man, that was just a good block in general. So many memories around that.
And we had so many neat little runs like that. Man. Yeah. It was cool.
So tell us a little bit now about what you're doing now. You're training for a 5K, and I'm actually coaching you. So that's been kind of fun to see your progress there. But talk a little bit about what you're training for and kind of what your goal is.
Yeah. Unlike you, I really kind of dropped out of the running world for the last 2 years. I've done some swimming. It's not like I've totally lost my physical fitness. Done a lot of swimming.
Weightlifting.
Because I've been toying with the idea of getting into my first like sprint triathlon at some point. So, but there's been a lot of failed disciplines. Like I've not been able to be real consistent about anything other than weightlifting. I've been real consistent with weights. But but I was just like, man, as we all know, if you don't put something in the calendar, it just
It's not getting done.
yeah, you lose the motivation. It's too
Yeah.
easy to talk yourself out of what you're trying to accomplish or do. So I just needed something on the calendar. It's like, what can I bite off that's not going to stress me out, make me super anxious? And I was like, I mean, a 5K. By the time you've done a marathon, unless you've really lost it, you can pretty much wake up any morning of your life and run a 5K.
Yes.
You know, so I was like, I just do a 5K. But just to make it a little interesting, I'll try to go for a PR. So I told you that, and you jumped on giving me a training plan. I didn't really ask you, but you've been working with some kids, and you know your stuff. So you gave me a whole system. So unlike the willy nilliness of the marathon training, it's kind of nice to have an intentional like plan to help me up my pace. So it's just about upping pace for me this time. It's nothing crazy, but I'd like to be able to finish that race and be like, I just did a really nice 5K.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, well, okay, well now let's try to do a PR on a 10K, and let's try to do a PR on a half.
Yeah.
You know?
And then a full.
See if I can. Yeah. Well, yeah, maybe you're right. I'm open to that.
Yeah.
And so that's all. And also, I'm kind of, when you hit 49, it's actually better if I hit 50 probably. The age categories in these races gets a little thinner.
Yeah.
So, it's like, I might actually be able to like win a ribbon or something like that on one of these deals. So I just needed something to challenge me. And nothing about your training plan was intimidating other than just knowing that it's a time commitment.
Yeah.
But a 5K is not a huge time commitment. And when you train for a large race, and I hope this is an encouragement to anybody listening out there, you learn after you've done it once or twice that you can trust the training.
Yeah.
If you're looking at your first one and say, I'll never get to 13.1, how could I ever do that? Like I'm fat, I'm out of shape. I suck at cardio. It's easy to think that way, but the training is not going to take you from 2 miles to 13.1.
Yeah.
It's a build, and you can trust the training, because whether you believe it or not, if you do what you're asked to do, before you know it, you're at 8 miles, you're at 10 miles, you're at 13 miles. And that's just how it works. Our bodies will do what we ask them to do.
Yeah.
And that's the cool part about
especially in a gradual build, because it'll get more familiar.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on and doing this a second time around.
It's all good.
I do miss some of the emotion that we had yesterday, but
that's all right.
This is still a great story. I'm glad that you're letting me tell it. And it's always fun to think about the times that we spent on the road together. And definitely, if you ever want to do a long run again, let me know. Maybe we can plan something.
It's really in the possibilities. If my life frees up a little bit, and if I'm allowed to say just before, because the emotion of our previous trial recording got lost a little bit. I'll just double down and say that one thing I said yesterday that I do really mean is that that marathon training really saved my life. It was that dark for me. There were days where I questioned whether I wanted to go on, because you're losing everything. And having something, and I would say this to anybody listening, if you're going through a hard time like that, if you can do it, don't give in to the darkness. Instead say, let me put something on my calendar. Maybe it's not even a run, but something that you got to stay alive for.
Yeah.
And your friendship and doing those runs kept me alive during the hardest time I've ever had to try to stay alive. But at the end of it, I'm like, heck yeah, man.
Yeah.
And now my daughter, she's only 6, but she actually she knows the medal that's from that race. It hangs in my bedroom.
Yeah.
And I told her, this is your medal.
Yeah.
And she tells me, when I get older, Dad, I'm going to wear that medal. And I'm like,
maybe she'll have her own medal.
Yeah,
okay, so this is one thing we didn't get on the podcast yesterday, but you were telling me that you got your daughter into a little around the block run recently.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
I would love to talk about that, because it was so dear, she knows her dad's a runner. And so she would, she'll see me get in my run clothes and knows that Dad's going for a run. And she loves to, be physical and athletic herself on a bike, on run, a little just racing across the yard, whatever. So, I signed her up. The Wildflower Run had a little free kids fun run, and it's literally just like one block, like from start of the block to the finish line. And so, but I didn't tell her it was a little. I mean, in her mind, she doesn't think it's a small race.
No.
I just told her I'm going to sign you up for a race, and she's like, okay. And I was like, all you got to do, and I stood with her at the starting line. I was like, all you got to do is you see that finish line over there. All you got to do is run as hard as you can until you cross that finish line. So I was like, do you think you can do that? And she's like, yeah. And so, and she kept asking, like, when's it going to start, Dad? When's it going to start? And so I told her, I was like, because I wanted a photo op as a dad.
Yeah.
So I was like, now I'm going to go over there. I want to take pictures. So you're going to have to do this by yourself. Are you cool with that? She's like, yeah. I was like, good, because I want to get the picture. So I went over the finish line. Oh, man. She was just like, I don't know how many kids were in it. Probably maybe 20 something in her age group. There were a few older kids that did a heat right before hers. And so, but man, it's a little bit of an uphill.
Yes.
She just, the look on her face and everything, she's going as hard as she can. There was maybe a handful of kids that beat her, but she beat like 15 of them.
Yeah.
And she gets across, and in her mind, it was like me when I finished the freaking marathon.
Yeah.
She just thought like I just, and she got her little medal, and we took a picture. Oh, it's so cute, dude.
That's amazing.
And I was just wanting to build into her the love for doing something physically challenging and winning.
And earning something.
And earning.
Getting a win, like you said.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then we'll build from there. We'll do more stuff now that she kind of knows the feeling of that.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Thank you so much for coming back on and talking about this. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Anytime. I love it. I love what you're doing.
Thank you guys for tuning in. And this was episode 2 of Through Their Stride with Brent Burgess.
Thank you.
Whew. Thanks for joining me on this run to the Texas Hill Country. Keep showing up, keep listening, keep following along, because every runner has a story to tell.